I'd like to call the December board meeting to order. If everybody would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair moves for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. Facility committee meeting next week, Monday the 15th, 7 o'clock right here in this room. And then the next regular board meeting is January 5th, 6 p.m. right here in this room also. And now I would like to move into the truth and taxation presentation. And Kathy, thank you.
Great. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're here this evening to conduct our annual Truth and Taxation hearing. It's our goal to ensure transparency and accountability in the school's taxation process. The taxes we'll be discussing this evening are for taxes payable 2026, and that will be the local property taxes that we will receive for next year's budget. Okay. Before we jump into the levy figures, I'd like to take just a moment to review the levy process. In August of each year, the state sets the funding levels, and the Minnesota Department of Education opens up the summer levy system. And then we get our FDALA entered, our student counts. And then by September 30th of each year, school districts are required to certify a proposed levy, and we set our levy at maximum each fall. We then turn that information over to Hennepin County. They go ahead and calculate the proposed taxes. And then in mid-November, the county will send all property tax owners a notice of proposed tax statement that you get in the mail. The statute requires that all local governments hold a hearing. And then finally, the school district needs to certify the final levy. And that will happen at our regular meeting following this hearing. The statute requires that all taxing jurisdictions have a hearing. On your tax statements, you will see that there are information from your county, city, and school district. And our hearing tonight is to discuss the school district's hearing and property taxes. There are 4 requirements of the Truth and Taxation hearing. We will be discussing the levy, as I mentioned, for next school, for payable 26, next year's revenue. We will also discuss our current school year budget, the percent we are proposing, and the reason for that percent increase. And then lastly, we will give the public any time for questions or comments. Displayed on the screen is our final 24-25 revenue and expenditures from last school year, as well as our current year budget for the 25-26 school year. This document was published in our local newspaper this fall, and that was following the presentation of our audited financial statements by Burton KDB, our independent auditor. Copies of this document, as well as our complete financial documents, are on our district website. If any of the board members or anybody in the public for that matter would like a copy, please let us know. Before we get into the details by fund, I'd like to give you just first an overall look at the total levy that we are proposing this evening. Again, it's our goal to have our residents have a clear understanding of their property tax pay dollars proposed. This chart and the following charts will give a comparison of the proposed levy as compared to the prior school year. We have 3 funds that we'll be discussing tonight: general fund, community education, and debt service. The overall proposed levy is $22,682,000, or 4.52% over the prior school year. And we'll review all of these funds in detail, starting with general fund. Highlights of the general fund are listed here. The proposed general fund levy is $13,552,000. And this covers obviously the majority of the programs to operate our school district. The local operating referendum is in general fund listed there in the top. That provides the classroom instruction support, instructional supplies, equipment, and other activities for education of our students. The capital projects levy is technology support, infrastructure, one-to-one computers, textbooks, and digital curriculum. And the general fund also includes our long-term facility maintenance levy, lease levy, operating capital, and safe schools, just to name a few. The largest change is the voter-approved referendum, which is tied to our student enrollment and inflation. Okay, we'll turn our attention now to the Community Education Fund. Our proposed community education levy is $985,700. Community education levy includes our basic community education funding, our early childhood family education programs, after-school enrichment, adults with disability programming, and adventure club. A lot of the levies are based off of our adult population in our community, which is 2,331 citizens. And the early childhood program levy is based off of our population of children in our community under the age of 5, which is 1,065 children. Again, community education provides enrichment programs at any age level that are not part of our daytime K-12 programming. The largest change in this fund is our school-age childcare, which in the prior year they had a larger adjustment. Okay. The last and final fund that we'll examine more closely is debt service. Our debt service levy is proposed at $8,144,000. Our debt service levy includes our principal and interest payments of our bonds. And this is based off of our debt schedules for the district's outstanding bonds. That includes our 2012 bonds, 2016 and 2024 building bonds, and our 2018 abatement bonds. This chart displays the Westonka certified proposed levies over the last 5 years. And as you can see, the 24, 25, and 26 levies are at a little higher level than the Pay 22 and Pay 23, and that is due to 3 voter-approved items: the renewal of the capital projects levy, the approval of the 2-step operating referendum, and the approved 2024 building bonds. This chart displays the Hennepin County tax comparison. And this chart represents all counties based in Hennepin County, and how their taxes compare on an average $600,000 home. The orange bar at the very bottom represents Westonka. As you can see, Westonka clearly has the lowest school property taxes in the county. We take our residents' property taxes very seriously, and we're very proud of what we've accomplished for our students. Again, accountability, good stewardship are of utmost importance, and for the local tax funding support, we are most grateful. At this time, I would like to invite any public board members, any comments, or Superintendent Borg, if you'd like to make any comments, please feel free.
I was just curious on the second one, the community education funds. It seemed like there were a lot of things were a lot lower in each category. So there's my issue. That is.
It can either be for adjustments, or oftentimes there's a different mix of state aid and property taxes. So our budget might look the same, but it's different funding levels that are available. Either they might have, some years we have more property tax responsibility and some years less.
So it doesn't really reflect a much different budget. It's just where the funds are coming. Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Good question.
Any others? Okay, before I turn it over to our next guest, as long as I'm up here, I'm gonna take just a quick moment to go through my standard financial report. Enrollment, you can see as of our December 1st count, we have 2,447 students, and that's an addition of 2 students over the prior month, and again, we're experiencing incredibly stable enrollment this school year. And revenue and expenses through November 30th, we have collected $11,568,000 of our budget for 26.1%, and we have expended $16,162,000 or 37.7% of our budget. Again, both the revenue and expenditures are trending appropriately compared to the prior years, and that is my report for tonight. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And at this time, I would like to introduce Matt Hammer of Ellers. He will be facilitating the public hearing for our property tax abatement for our parking lot construction and improvement projects. Great, thank you, Matt.
There you go. Perfect. Well, good evening, everybody. Matthew Hammer, District's Financial Advisor, representing Ellers here tonight. We're here tonight to have the public hearing in regards to the proposed parking lot projects and the abatement that the school board called for the public hearing at their November meeting. So we're having the hearing portion of that portion of the meeting tonight. Really, districts are authorized, municipalities for that matter, are authorized to issue tax abatement bonds under 469 of the Minnesota State Statute. For school districts, the Department of Education limits this just to parking lot improvements, renovations, and building new parking lots. That's the position the Department of State in. The district has issued tax abatement bonds in the past, as Kathy talked about back in 2018. And the district is looking to issue some additional tax abatement bonds for some proposed parking work that's going to happen as part of the construction projects moving forward. There is some limitations. Municipalities are limited to 10% of their overall net tax capacity, which we're well within those limitations. This gives you a kind of picture of the process in bold. We're at the hearing. The district's called for we've identified the parcels that were put forward in the notice that went out to property owners. We're at that hearing portion. The school board's going to have another resolution later tonight that would propose granting the abatement. And then there's also an intent resolution to move forward with the issuance of tax abatement bonds that would be included in the overall issuance of the remaining voter approved authority. What we're looking at is a maximum abatement amount authorized by the board of $2.6 million. We're not planning to use that full par amount because we're likely going to receive a reoffering premium, but this is the max authorized amount that the board will be authorizing as part of granting tax abatement, and that we're looking at a 10-year term or 10 tax abatements. I didn't get this chart up there, but it didn't come through those darn max. What this really is representing is an illustration of kind of where we sit overall. As Kathy pointed out, the school district's taxes are the lowest in the Hennepin County area for all school districts. This is a snapshot of kind of an update of where we're, what Kathy's chart represented, the taxes payable in 25 numbers. Based on preliminary proposed tax rates that have been provided by Hennepin County now, that are published as part of the TNT statements that property owners received. Hennepin County, within Hennepin County, the school district's still looking to have the lowest taxes. In fact, tax rates are expected to go down slightly for taxes payable 26, even incorporating all the remaining voter approved bonds and the proposed issuance of the top and ball layer. Including the abatement bonds. So right now, that estimate based on the preliminary data that we have is that overall value on a $600,000 home would be around $1,754 is what a $600,000 value property would pay, compared to $1,776, which is what Kathy had up on the last slide. So this has been part of the plan. that's been talked about with the board is that we wanted to keep taxes and tax rates at levels consistent all the way along with what was communicated when the property owners and voters in the district proposed and approved the plan that was authorized by the board back in November 2023.
So in November of 23, Matthew, what was communicated is we estimated taxes to be 1776.
Yeah, around that level with the step up that was
Right now with the Bateman bond and what the second sale, where we are today, it's 1754.
That's correct. So tax rates have remained at consistent levels or even slightly less than where they were last year. So here's where we're at. The board will have a resolution for granting the proposed abatement later on the meeting. There'll be an intent resolution that will incorporate the authorized and on off up to 2.6 million. Right now, we're scheduled to sell the bonds on January 5th, the morning of January 5th, and the board then will authorize those bonds with tax payment with the remaining voter approved authority later that evening at their regular meeting on January 5th. And then closing on the bonds, it right now is scheduled for January 29th, and that's at the time when the district will have those funds available to use for construction projects, but also put them to work from an investment perspective until those funds are needed for construction. So that concludes the public hearing portion of the abatement.
I just have a question with the abatement bonds in general. 469, is that what?
Yep.
Okay. Is it always been limited to parking lots or
For-
history there?
For school districts, it's always been limited to parking and parking lot structures. For other municipalities, they issue tax payment bonds for all kinds of purpose that meet public purpose. So, but the department, Minnesota Department of Education is limited school districts to just fund parking and parking related structures.
Our next board meeting, you're gonna have an action item. We're changing that to January 5th. And so board members, that'll be the date. Matthew will be at that board meeting as well as he will be coming with the bond sale results. And so we expect that at that meeting.
Both bonds will be sold.
So everything be sold together, correct?
Yep.
It'll all be,
Yeah.
because it will help us too. Yeah. All right, put up your mouth. Thank you. At this time, do we have any members of the public that wish to address the board? None? Then we'll move on to the student rep report.
Okay. I just saw my side. I jumped to get you.
August and Valerie, you guys are up for the student rep report. Welcome.
Okay, so my name is Valerie Mavagi and I'm a junior at Westonka.
I'm August Lane. I'm also a junior at Westonka.
And unfortunately, Edie and George could not make it tonight.
But fortunate for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we apologize to absence. Just to kick it off and talk about sports, the dance team competed this past Saturday at the Gymnastic in by placing 4th in varsity jazz and 4th in varsity kick. And they are currently competing in conference tonight at Delano. Alpine ski was officially able to begin practicing at Highland on Mill Snow this past Wednesday. Boys basketball is also off to a great start with a 1-2 record so far this season, and girls basketball is also off to a solid start with a current record of 1-3. Girls hockey is currently 4-1-2 this season, and their next game is tomorrow against South St. Paul. Then boys hockey currently has a 2-2 season record. The last game was against Blake on Friday, where they faced an unfortunate 7-2 loss.
In activities, our math league team has now won both of the first 2 meets, which both times they have beat Orono, which is a big achievement for us. DECA is continuing their work on districts prep, and our first competition is January 18th at Waconia High School. DECA also recently sent a small group of senior officers to Washington, D.C., where they went to the DECA power trip and got to learn more about some different policies and got to network. And then NHS had their most successful poinsettia sale ever which gave us a lot of funds for future scholarships. And then the speech team has also started practicing over this past few weeks. In arts, the fall musical Chicago showed from November 20th to 23rd. It was very successful and a lot of tickets were sold. The band's concert is actually tonight, and the choir concert is next week on Monday the 15th. And then the one-act play is also starting up this week with auditions on Wednesday.
For academics, student nominations for both the Excel and AAA awards were due this past Friday, and we should be hearing about who the winners are soon here before break. And then quarter two is well underway at this point, and students are locked in. Actually, only have 9 days of school left until break. And then construction, more classrooms are opening up. Almost all the science teachers have now officially opened their own classrooms. That's all we have for you, Dad.
We think by after Christmas break, all of the learning area will be open up. Yeah, is the goal. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
I wrestled here in 74, 70. I didn't hear anything, wrestling report was there. I'm teasing.
I haven't heard so much from us.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That's okay. I'm the student.
Thanks much for that.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we'll move on to construction report, Gary.
All right. Gary Zipko, project exec at Cross Anderson. Happy to come back and give you guys a quick update as to what's going on out there.
Well, let me get this one.
All right. So for the month of November, phase one, that was the lower level math and science, as we said, like they're moved into those spaces now. So we finished that up. There's a little bit of some flooring we're gonna do over Christmas. Phase three, that's the administration building. So we're coming out of the ground. The steel's going up. This is where the iron workers earn their money because the weather's pretty miserable, but they're out there. So, and we build that structure up, and then in the springtime, we turn that over, and then we move into the courtyard space. Phase four is what we'll be finishing up here over Christmas breaks, and they'll be moving into the remaining of the learning spaces. So English classrooms. So we're putting the finishing touches on that, coordinating with the school staff on move-ins. And then phase five was some interior work.
So we're thinking that after Christmas break, all the plastic will be down?
Yep.
Stuff, is that hopefully the goal?
Yeah, well, not on the outside, but inside.
Okay, so we'll be working on the outside.
Yep. So, this area here, that's the area, the science rooms that were handed over Thanksgiving. And then this is the next area that'll be handed over Christmas break. And then the light green, that's the administrative spaces that we're coming out of the ground with.
Yeah. The exterior will still be going on.
Yeah, odds and ends of it, yep. It'll be weathertight.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just excited to see it once they get the plastic off and we have all the glass in there.
Yep.
That will be a big day.
Yeah. And our next big move is obviously finishing the admin space and then moving into the courtyard.
They're gonna be starting the media center area, so right after winter break, we'll have that cleared out. And so from the media center, you see the light green there to the admin. That'll all be worked on for basically third quarter. Then when we get to fourth quarter, you're gonna see the gym will become, then that'll be a project that we're turning over, as will some of the lower area, our little theater. We'll start turning over some more spots for the fourth quarter.
The gym is sort of getting gutted, right? I mean, new floor, new bleachers. New lighting, is that, okay.
Yeah, curtains and when they did that floor, they built the wood floor over the existing floor. So not only is the current, but the original floor is also going. One part of our project that we're excited about is that we're reclaiming some of those boards and we're going to reuse it in spots of our building. And so we've worked with FAME and they're going to we're going to be accenting some of the athletic concourse with the old gym boards. So,
Can I get one of the lights that I used to look up at when I was getting pinned? Can I?
I know that's not true.
And here's just a couple of photos of the science rooms. Right there.
Oh, that's great.
I think one thing that we're really excited for the space in the science rooms is going from instruction to lab and having our students have their own lab stations versus having too many students around that you're sharing. It allows us to do labs more frequently and it allows kids to get involved in their labs at a higher level. That being equipped as a well-designed lab as we sit today. So really thankful for the size and how those are outfitted.
I don't know about the rest of you. I would love after Christmas break sometime, doesn't have to be right away, but while the tour again, just to see
Absolutely.
when all the spaces are completed, if you do that for us.
That's kind of the wrap up on what's going on out there. The last time we were here, we bid out the stadium, so that's kind of in the process of now they're working on their shop drawings and their product data and submitting that to the designers with that project breaking ground as soon as spring shows up. So
we're currently in conversations with Peterson Company, who was the winning bid for moving a lot of the earth there. And a couple things that we're trying to navigate is when do they need access at what stages for continuous work, and that'll really dictate how that impacts some of our outdoor activities. But we're trying to limit that as best we can and also assure that it's done by fall. And so we're really just trying to work with them of how are you planning on approaching this, and if there's a way that we can use our track for a couple weeks, a month, however long, great. But if that's going to put us at risk and not being done in the fall, no, we don't want that either.
yeah, like next summer, obviously the site, there will be a lot of work going on the site between the parking lots for the high school and then the stadium work and the practice field.
And one question that I heard out in the community was the parking lots, and we're doing an abatement bond, and there's a question about was that already in our bond, and we did have parking in bond, but our scope of our parking lot improved, and with the school board of having the authority to be able to do this is the timing to engage on that project. And so we're able to add parking on the opposite side of the tennis courts, and so that's gonna just not function for the stadium, but it's also going to support parking for pickleball or tennis across the road. We're able to create a safer drive lane that's going to drop out by Thaler, the stadium, but then also our school campus. And so a lot of thought went into that. And then we moved our admin area from the original design. It was going to be up on top here by the pack. Now it's on the north end. And so we redid how we did bus drop off here. So this abatement bond dollars go directly towards some of that change of scope, which we're really excited for. But all that work is next summer work, along with doing fields all around. So really compliments to our students, compliments to our coaches, compliments to our staff as they've shuffled construction. I couldn't be more complimentary of how our students and staff have led this effort of adjusting. And also I just want to share with the board, they're so excited about their new spaces. I mean, that's the fuel that fuels this, is as you're dealing with construction, anyone that's dealt with it, it does require some patience and grace. But they've, I think, are so excited when they get these new spaces turned over. So thank you.
Kevin, was there any things decided on yet on how the construction that goes on this summer or starts will affect community education? You know what's going on there at all?
Yeah, so when we do work on the parking lots, that's going to impact how people have accessibility to the WAC. So that part of the pool and the WAC, there's going to be a time period that we say that's going to be shut down. That being said, a lot of adventure club that's offered over the summer, targeted service for our primary. We're going to be using Grandview and Our Lady for classrooms. A lot of our rec activities still continue as they have been on other fields, and so we've just put them in different places. When we look at our strength and conditioning, we're looking at a spot off district to be able to complete that, and so we've had conversations with some different districts in Crum College and really trying to get that finalized. And so a lot of thought for a long time has been gone how we can phase and keep as many opportunities for kids.
This is gonna get busiest summer for
By far.
construction.
By far.
And I think it's just important that we make sure that we get that information out to the community with the
Yeah.
webs that are there.
You know, we worked a lot with this phasing schedule here for the high school. Will there be a phasing schedule
Yes.
like that for fields?
Yep, we'll do, Kevin and his staff, like, a phasing logistics plan that just shows the whole site and what's going on and what area to be out elements, and so we can communicate out to the staff and community what's happening.
You know, Brian, a lot of that's gonna really depend how much snow, how they, when they can wait at it. As the initial phasing thing will probably be different than what we have, you know, that'll probably change a number of times. So
We're hoping spring shows up. I hope so. Trick game a little sillier and harder.
Hopefully, it comes early like winter day.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the treasurer's report, Ralph.
They begin with Ann Honors, the by Prime Therapeutics, West Winds, $500. WMS PTO, Wisconsin Middle School, $3,103.40. Ohio File, Westonka Athletics, $24.03. Westonka Nordic Ski Boosters, Westonka Nordic Ski Team, $4,700. Westonka Basketball Boosters, Westonka Boys Basketball Team, $4,200. Westonka Basketball Boosters, Westonka Girls Basketball Team, $4,200. Westonka Hockey Boosters, Westonka Boys Hockey Team, $6,483.84. Mighty Cause, Westonka Community Theater, $1,230. And Gina Soul Trust, J. Soul Memorial Scholarship, $5,000. Judd Johnson, Mount Westonka Class of 1975 Scholarship, $1,000. Lauren Davis, Mount Westonka Class of 1975 Scholarship, $1,000. Michael and Kathleen McClure, Mount Westonka Class of 1975 Scholarship, $250. Steve Howells, Mount Westonka Class of 1975 Scholarship, $1,000. D Method LLC, Westonka Hopkins Dance Team, $150. Amy and Robert Lekowski, National Honor Society, $150. And Westonka Band Boosters, Westonka Band Club, $1,300. Year-to-date through November donations, $119,984.02. And Mr. Chair and school board members, I did look at the check roster, combined checks and check roster for October and November, and everything seems to be in order.
Thank you, Ralph. Are there any committee reports? None? Then we'll move on to teaching and learning.
It's good to see everybody again, and I would just add and Laura, I think you should ask about, love to get into those classrooms and see it, and you know what I can tell you, when you're walking around, when school is in session now, we can come over there, there's such a different energy and engagement when you walk around, because the class, you see all this learning going on, these classrooms, and it's so bright in there. it's a very special thing right now to see that. So I hope we get the chance to do that. Well, I am here tonight. This is December is when we have our annual update on the 24-25. Right screen here. Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Report, formerly World's Best Workforce. I'm not sure if I can remember that title. I got World's Best Workforce in, but this is the annual report that we submit to the state on 5 specific goals that we've been focusing on since 2013. But before we get into that, I think it's a great opportunity just to remind ourselves of the success that we're having. And in the last couple of months, the U.S. World News Report has come out and has ranked our schools, and it is quite stellar. And I think it's important that we start there with some great news. Both Hilltop Primary School and Shirley Hills Primary School, they are literally the top 2% of all elementary schools in the state of Minnesota. Hilltop ranked number 19, and Shirley Hills ranked number 31. And to think that in our district, both elementary schools are in that top tier is really quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to them. And then Grandview Middle School ranked number 8 middle school in the state of Minnesota. And these are outside measurements. And I think about middle school just in itself, how challenging that can be at times when you're working with these young adolescents, and just wonderful things going on at Westonka Middle School. So I wanted to point that out to you. And then Westonka High School, we were ranked number 10 traditional public high school in Minnesota, number 18 overall for U.S. News and World Reports. I start there because that's great things to celebrate. And along with that, the new Star Tribune came out about a month ago, and they had an analysis. It was an article, you can look it up. It's called Beating the Odds. And what they do, they have an algorithm. They look at the poverty rate of a school system, and they predict what they expect the proficiency rate on the math and reading MCA should be. And they have a scatter plot, and the goal here is to make sure your district is above this line. So Hilltop, they had a predicted reading proficiency rate of 62%. It was 83%. The math proficiency rate was calculated at 57%. We had 92. So we are way up in this area here. Same thing with Shirley Hills. Predicted proficiency rate in reading was 59%. We hit 81%. And the predicted math proficiency rate, 54%, was 91%. Again, incredible news. And that is just, I always look at that as the icing on the cake of the work that we're doing, showing our community, showing our parents, our families, that there's some wonderful things going on in our district. But I just wanted to start this report with that. So when we get into the CACR report, there are 5 goals, the same goals that we've had. And the only change in these 5 goals, there was a literacy goal by the end of 3rd grade. You have to be, all 3rd graders are reading proficiently. That has changed to all students now need to read proficiency K-12. And that's the READ Act. And so they replaced that goal with number 5, is all students are prepared to be lifelong learners. So that is a new goal for this reslip. So I'm just going to take you through the results, and then we can open up for any questions. So the first goal that we have would be all students are ready for school. And this is focusing on kindergarten readiness, that we would want to hit 90% or higher of all our students that are entering kindergarten are ready for school. So we go through our early childhood screening process. We screened 181 students. 159 were determined ready for kindergarten, 88%. So I would say we're at the ballpark. We are just fine with that, because we also identified 22 students that there's something to address. And I would say, let's address whatever those needs are. excuse me, before they start school versus waiting till they get into kindergarten into first grade. The second goal is close the achievement gap between student groups. When we look at this particular goal, the naming of groups, that's defined by the Department of Ed. And so in this measurement, we're looking at achievement proficiency rates between our highest performing group, which is the white group, and our two largest groups, which is free reduced lunch and special ed. So we look at, in 2024, the highest performing group, you have proficiency rate of 76.5. Special education, the proficiency rate is 44.5. So the gap, the difference is 32 points. We measure that same two groups the next year, 2025. The gap is 31.9 points. So we want to see a decrease in that gap from 1 year to the next. So the gap is 32 points in 2024. The gap in 2025 was 31.9, so it was a decrease of just 0.1, so it stayed the same. The same thing happens with pre-reduced lunch in that group. We measure the highest performing group, 76.5%, pre-reduced lunch meal group, 58.5. There's a gap of 18 points at 2024. In 2025, that gap slightly went up to 20.1. So again, the goal is decreased by 2 percentage points. It stayed about the same in that area, and that's the math results. In the area of reading, yes.
Why is, I don't know how to ask this question, but just why is free and reduced lunch group set aside as a subgroup? What is the dynamic that makes that a special subgroup? Is it just low income? Is it?
It's low income.
Okay.
It's your poverty group.
Okay.
And so we are looking at our two largest subgroups would be special education and then free reduced lunch. And that's just how they turn.
Yeah.
They identify the groups. And that's where I wanted to point that, because some people wonder, like, how did they come up with that name? And then that's how they measure these
Our free and based on this, our free and reduced lunch group is about what, 20%?
It's about 17%.
Okay, I was looking at
232
232 to 1097 and 246 to 1043.
Yep, 17-18%.
Okay.
So
Well, that's been pretty stable, right?
That's been pretty stable. Yeah.
The people, I mean, is anything changed in how people qualify or apply for it, or do they need to apply for it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's all voluntary.
Because there's no really, I mean, the state is providing meals, right?
Correct.
So there's really not a free and reduced lunch program right now. Is that?
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
They do have to account for it, though. That's why a lot of people were not reporting early on when they went over to the absolutely free lunch.
Right. Right.
And then the state said, no, you have to keep up with that reporting because there's certain dynamics they use for planning.
Yeah. We certainly, I think our food service does a very fine job of communicating out to our families that this is something that's important. Also realize that there's other benefits. If a family chooses, if they're in that situation, like other scholarships and reduced fees and things, it's not just about that lunch cost. So I think we do a good job, but you're right, it is voluntary. We do not force families to identify that. In the area of reading, what I would just summarize here, you'll notice with the free reduced lunch group, there was an achievement gap that it went up 6.3 points. But here's something to realize. When you look at the highest performing group, that went up from 76.2% to 78.8%. So it went up a little bit, and then the free reduced lunch group went down a little bit. And this is a data point. These are just one way of looking at achievement. I would say there's many other ways that we look at how our kids are performing. But this is how the data comes out. This is what we look at. We know every child in our schools of who's performing well, who's struggling, We have the intervention programs built in. This is data that we take. It affirms what we already know about what's happening with our students. So there's no surprises here.
But even in spite of that, and so my critical of these numbers, but as you pointed out before, based on what the state was projecting,
Yes,
I mean, we came out very, very
we did.
overall. So,
We
I
did.
mean, it's not like these kids are failing. It's just that you're looking at the top ones, you know.
Yes,
And so you got to kind of take it in perspective.
correct.
Overall, they're not doing badly.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's always room for improvement. There's always room to look at this data point and say, what can we do differently? What are the other approaches? But that's why you never want to focus just on one data point. You want to have at least three when you're making decisions for these things. The next goal is all students career and college career ready by graduation. And we use our pre-ACT and our ACT results to look at that. And what we look for is from sophomore year when they take the pre-ACT to the junior year when they take the ACT, we want to see an increase, or I'm sorry, the graduating class by their 12th grade year. So 10th grade to 12th grade. You want to see an increase of 1.5 points on that ACT score. So when we compared 23-24 to 24-25, the change in point value was 1.75 points. So we made that goal.
Is that 1.5 a number we come up with?
We came up with that one. We came up with that. And anything over a 1 point increase is usually a very good thing.
There's really no state standard.
Well, no, it's not. One of the things I wanted to point out to you, though, that the way we are really addressing ACT is that just this every year the ACT Prep Academy gets better and better and better. And this year, the goal was try to reach even more students than they ever have. And so what they did, we had our 4 wonderful teachers here that are leading the charge in the different discipline areas. You probably know these names of the individuals. And then what they did this year, they really made a big advertising blitz with our student body to say, hey, this is really your juniors. Now, if this is something that you maybe want to invest in, and the carrot with this is that they built in some of the sessions during their win time, during this day, versus and then some are in the evenings. But it used to be, it was all in the evenings. And we know how busy our kids are, that sometimes they just can't do it. So they built in part of this prep during the win time, and then also in the evening. So really the content of learning the ins and outs of the testing during win time, practice tests are in the evenings. So then they built out a whole calendar of sessions, and we're right in the middle of it as we speak, and that'll all lead to March 12th, where they'll take this district-sponsored ACT exam here at the high school. So I'm really encouraged just to see this new revelation of how we're doing ACT Prep Academy.
Are you seeing more kids signed up? More students signed up?
No, I want to say we have about 7.
Okay.
Is that all self-directed, or are they kind of really directed by staff and teachers and others that kind of led into it?
No, they're directed by staff. It's
Yeah.
both.
Okay.
They're provided the ACT online prep exam or suite of practice tests, but then it's during the win times where they are directed. It's like direct instruction.
Okay.
With the teachers. And they were able to offer it for $14.
Is it optional for them? It's voluntary. It is voluntary.
How many students you say are active?
About 7.
Do you have to split those into subgroups just for, having practice sections with a group of 7?
Yes, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, they can break those up into smaller groups. You have the 4 teachers, and they have, I don't have all those details here tonight, but they plan for that.
But it's not like you have 70 kids coming in and showing.
No.
These are juniors or seniors?
These are juniors. I probably could have a couple sophomores, but it's primarily your juniors that it's kind of the big year when you take your ACT. Your senior year is when you're going to do retakes. That's what kids choose. So then the last couple goals here, there's always a graduation goal, and our goal is always that we are hitting at least 95% graduation rates. And we usually, most people focus on the 4-year, but we also focus on 5-year, 6-year, 7-year. So for the graduating class of 2024, the graduation rate was 97.4%, and that's great. And if you notice that the 5-year, 6-year, 7-year, they're a little bit different. That is because we have special education students in the extended year program, and they will graduate at different times, and that will impact the graduation rate.
Does it still include those numbers for people that move away?
Yes, it does. So again, we've talked about that in the past sometimes. You have kids that move out of the district that they don't inform you where they got, that counts against us. And there's some other nuances with that. But again, what this has done for us, this focus, is that we know exactly, like I could predict tomorrow what the graduation rate is going to be this spring. So you got it that tight. So all good news that we should be at 95% and higher each year. And then the last goal I want to share with you tonight, it's a new goal for this report. And the state said, we want districts to focus on all students are prepared to be lifelong learners. That's kind of nebulous of how you measure it. So we decided, the high school decided, because we have Robert Beppers, who's our high school reading interventionist specialist, and Julian the staff, they're focusing on reading. Reading covers many different things. So they're focusing on measuring the MCA results in grade 8 and grade 10, and then the reading college readiness benchmark on the ACT. So in 8th grade, they're measuring from 24 to 25. The proficiency rate, it dropped in 8th grade from 24 to 25, but I also put in parentheses, so it's 8th grade was still number 6 in the state. So it's relative a little bit. But still, we're not satisfied with that, but that is where they ended. 10th grade, again, it's different cohorts of students, but we measure from 10th grade 2024 to 2025 and 9.4% increase. And the high schools had a very intentional focus on literacy, reading across the curriculum emphasis with Robert and the staff. So I'm going to say that 10th grade result in particular is part of the result of that effort with the professional development. And then with ACT reading college readiness benchmark, that's a constant. That is another area. What that means is that if you hit that benchmark, the ACT would predict you're going to get at least a B in your freshman literature English class. That's what that means. So there's some very intentional work going on in all these areas. And I think the most important thing is that we look at our data. We don't rest on all our accomplishments, but we get after the areas that we could have some focus on. And again, I'll come back each year with these results with you. This now will be submitted to the state. We update our district website this week with these results. We go from there.
So just so I'm understanding this, they have these 5 things that they say have to happen, but it's up to each district to develop how they're going to go after that. And this is ours. This represents ours, and this will stay that way, or maybe get tweaked.
Yes, until we decide we're going to make changes, and we do. I am having some conversations with principals about things that we might want to change and look at differently. For example, we have vocational programming coming in. I think that could be a way of measuring if kids are ready for post-secondary, prepare to be lifelong learners. So as new things come about, we will always look at these goals and adapt and revise.
So we set our standards for this, which would be totally different from what Talk or anybody else. I mean, everybody sets their way.
But can you go back to the slide about I was trying to just understand it. If you started to fill out the predicted read proficiency one, that was back a ways, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, go back one border. Hilltop, I think, was the first one.
Yep.
But
It's
there you go. So they're based on, is that based on our, again, on our number of free
It's
lunch?
based on our, yes, it's based on our poverty rate.
Poverty rate, okay.
And they look across the state, they look at all the data, and they have a pretty sound algorithm that they can predict how a district should perform. Now, I think there's a lot of other variables involved other than just your poverty rates. It's what you're doing with your program. It's what you're doing with interventions. It's how you're approaching learning in the classroom. That makes the difference. And Star Tribune was simply trying to make a point that there's a number of districts above the line and below the line. And they're trying to unlock what is it that's going on in those districts that have higher poverty rates, but they have also high proficiency rates on state tests. What's the difference? And
Did they dig into it with you as part of their analysis? No.
As
Right.
we see the development, like we get Lakeview and Red Oak, golf courses are closed, you have these gorgeous homes, you see that's rapiding out of Kings Point. Do we see a big shift in our poverty rate for our district?
have.
Really?
We have.
Really? Okay.
We've, as this conversation has reflected, how people sign up for free and reduced and how we engage, that's changed over the years. But we've been in my time here, we've been really steady between 15 to 22% of free and reduced lunch count. And I would say somewhere in that is where we are.
Is it that
It's interesting.
high for the area, I would imagine?
Yes.
yeah, it is.
Yes. So when we go to our neighbors to the east, they're half that. And so sometimes I think we get lumped in that you're on Lake Minnetonka, and yet our free and reduced numbers reflect something different than other sides of the lake.
That, I also think that just from living in different areas of the city, that parental involvement here, I think really is, I have no hard data on it, but I would expect that a lot of times parental involvement in this area is so strong that there's probably a fairly substantial percentage shift, just uplifting on percentile, parents' involvement in their students' academic life.
I think a big thing you take each building and there's a culture that exists and how you go about school, and there's a lot of complementary factors, but one of the factors is over time that establishes, and so you just can't have a dynamic teacher, it takes time and years after years to be able to establish. But you definitely walk into the school and one of the factors is the culture about how you go about learning and people's hope and confidence of their opportunities. And so when you look at the high school, just being a parent of two that have gone through, the conversations that they have with friends of how to be competitive for your opportunities after high school is a huge motivating factor that they really push themselves. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful part of the culture of your peer groups having these conversations and the expectations that you place on yourself.
Last Thursday, I played Santa Claus for the Shoreline Childcare, which is at Good Shepherd. I'd done that for a few years. And many families came in, the kids had White Hawk apparel on. And so I would ask, and there were older siblings, what school do you go to, Shirley Hills or Hilltop? I had 3 sets of parents tell me that they moved out here because of the school district, which was really nice. I did confess to them, to the kids that went to Shirley Hills, that when Santa was a little boy, he went to Shirley Hills too. So they sort of looked at him like, I bet you didn't know Santa had to go to school, but he went to Shirley Hills.
The narrative swayed a little.
A lot of the zealots went to Hilltop.
All right.
Is there any help that this report?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
As we've gone through the agenda, several things were addressed, but I would start that one, just a reminder again in your actions today, our board meeting in January is going to be January 5th. Want to thank Emily for that change, Kathy for that change as you're working with the bond sale and that agenda. With our upcoming meetings, you're going to see two things on that January agenda. We're going to try to set a February retreat for board members where we're going to talk about vision, mission, and board goals. And then in March, we have our meeting with administration about goals that we're recommending to go under our new strategic priorities. And we'll have that opportunity with you. In that meeting in March, we're going to have different members scheduled at different time slots. So they'll be presenting what they will be proposing to you for goals. And so that ranges from different departments, different schools, etc. And so I'm really looking forward to that process, but that conversation with you of what our areas of focus will be. With our strategic priorities, again, these are replacing what our current strategic goals are. Currently, we have 4 strategic goals. Our new strategic priorities: comprehensive student success will be one of them. Safety and well-being will be another one of them. Empowered and intentional innovation, school and community engagement. And our last one is really working off our logo, investing in small school advantages, big school opportunities, where we're really talking about our systems, whether it be our facilities, our finances, how we go about HR. And so those are going to be kind of the buckets, and underneath there we have some areas of focus that push us. One thing that's interesting, we had our prospective parent night, and for 2 years in a row, it's really come up, not by the majority, but enough people bringing up the same point that it gets you to listen to this point, because the parent perspective is, how are you balancing technology and technology initiatives in the classroom with non-technological initiatives? So if it's device related or how you're using that as a tool. And I think as that perspective might be different based on different individuals, it's really trying to make sure you have balance with it. One thing that we know that's coming up is the incorporation of AI, not just in our own productivity as a district and how we manage our work, but also how people utilize that in their learning. And so as we as a country have made huge policy decisions around AI and huge investments into infrastructure, we know that those steps are going to be starting to push different agendas and opportunities or fears, depending on how people look at this. And it's really important that we as a school district establish policy guidelines, but really call out what we're prioritizing, both in learning and our own work. That is an example of an idea that will be talked about at the March, and not calling that out above or beneath anything else. But it's really important as a school district that we really own the narrative of what's the place for these technological or other innovative advances in our school district and with learning and with work, versus be silent on it. And so I think the main goal of these strategic priorities is the intention of being intentional about what's our focus going to be, and being coordinated and then communicated well of where we're headed. And this really gives us that framework to be able to do it. So I'm excited about the work coming up, and it's going to be a very fluid document, because what should be our main focus, that should always be an active conversation. I wanted to call out that very, very thankful for the partnership that we have with Orono. police department, the Minnetrista Police Department with Ridgeview, with Mount Fire, and I can just give you different examples. Example of how we do our training. We had everybody in. Emily did a really wonderful job of organizing a great meeting around reunification. So if we had to evacuate one of our school sites and we had to connect parents with their kids off-site, how do you go about that? It's very complicated. It's easy to say, it's very hard to deliver. And there's roles, not just by the school, but our police department, our fire department, by Ridgeview. How do you do these type of things? And so we've taken steps about how have we. I want to thank Our Lady of the Lake because they've been a great partner with working with us on this. Becky Kennedy and her team, it's the Westonka community. It's just how we work together. Today I was driving down the road and I felt my back part of my truck just slide a little bit, and when I got to school, quickly send a text, and we talked directly with everybody. So the two plow crews, Minnetrista and Mound, hey, notice that it's icing up, and just great coordination where people receive your messages and want to make sure that we have safe roads. You talk to Mound Fire, and I can go on, but these are text message, quick communications, or involved meetings. But it's really the Westonka community of how you assure safety, and something I feel very blessed. Talked about construction. I'm not going to go over that more. The only thing I wanted to state is huge investments of time and coordination and exciting work on the vocational programming. This isn't a light switch where you're saying, now we're offering it, let's see who shows up into the room. I mean, everything from the equipment to the curriculum to how you staff it to grants that we wrote to making sure that licensing has worked out, that you maximize how you get reimbursed for funding, your partnerships in the community and how they work, how your kids can have opportunities outside of school. There's layer after layer after layer after layer, and it wouldn't have to be that way. It's really compliments to Mark Femright, it's compliments to Jolene Herfel and the people that they work with. They've done a really, really good job of coordinating a lot of effort there. But this isn't about, we talked about the education classrooms, and Mark's right, have right-sized classrooms, have natural light, have breakout space, have it be a place that they're proud of. All of those enhance learning, absolutely. The technology of how the display boards are working and how kids can see and how they can hear. I mean, all those things so important. But it's also the new programs that are coming in these spaces, and it's just beyond thrilling. So wanted to just give a little bit of voice. In your action items today, you'll take action on what Matt and Kathy talked about. You're going to see that, again, we recycle some of our equipment. A custodian float position, we're noticing with construction, but also with some leaves that people are on, we need to staff up, and we can't afford to be a person down. So you're going to see added position there that we can fill in with some of the people that are on leave and some of the demands we have due to construction. And a mathematics overload position, we just have some higher numbers in a class that we want to reduce the class size, and it's an affordable good solution of doing it. So it's a 0.1. So a 0.1 is how that's calculated. That's a semester class, and that comes out at a 0.1. That's what it is.
On discussion items B and C, the approving of the general obligation bond and the approving of the abatement tax. Do we need a roll call on those or just a voice?
Just a voice.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to discussion items. Discussion item 9A. The chair moves for approval of the resolution to adopt the 2025 payable 2026 levy. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 9B, approval of the resolution stating the intention of the school board to issue general obligation, school building facilities, maintenance, tax abatement, refunding bond series 2026A. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 9C, approval of resolution relating to the property tax abatement for parking lots, granting the abatement. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 9D, approval of obsolete equipment to be sold or recycled. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 9E, approval of a 1.0 FTE custodial float position. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chair moves for approval of action item 9F, approval of a 0.1 FTE mathematics overload position. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on to the, does anybody else have any further business? Okay. I will be sending out a list to everybody here. I'll work with Emily and on committees. If everybody's happy with the committees they're on and stuff, we'll leave it as is. If somebody looking at something different, then we'll have to juggle some things around. I think we have a really good thing going there, but I'll send it out because I also love to get people at that. And I'd like to hear back by the end of the week if I could, so I could turn that over, and then we'll have that that we can finalize. Beyond that, you guys, we had a great year. We had a really good year. We got a lot of great stuff coming down the road again. I want to thank everybody for their hard work. It was a lot of extra time and effort. And you know, beyond that, everybody enjoy their Christmas with their families in the holiday season. So thanks again. With that, if there is no further business to come before the board, I would move for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
You.